So Michelle, thank you so much for joining us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow podcast, and I'm so excited for you to be here. What would be the best way to describe your role now?
So I'm a partner in a venture fund, and I wear a couple of different hats. Initially, I was sort of the in-house investment banker to help our companies with their financing strategies, advice on business development deals, M&A, and really, be the in-house person that sort of syndicated all of the deals. Since then, I've also, I raised a SPAC and managed that for a couple of years. That was a lot of fun. And since then, I've also started leading investments in the biotechnology space. So I'm the non-scientist investor out there.
Awesome. So we'll go back to the beginning where we met at Student Works. So who was Michelle Doig before you joined Student Works?
Yeah, I guess I was like any student at Western. I was, playing hard and working hard. Really wanted to get into Ivy,
Yeah,
and it was back before you could get, pre
acceptance.
acceptance. And I was, getting good grades. I had a pretty well-rounded sports and extracurriculars, but it was, pointed out to me that this Student Works program would be a great way to probably clinch because it is one of the hardest things running your own
Yes.
business. And I didn't know what I didn't know, and I went for it. So yeah, and I do think it clinched, and then it helped me, further on in my career as well.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, no, I remember those years, and just thinking back, what was impactful, like, about Student Works, and what you took from it, maybe early in your career, later on in your career?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about problem solving, and I
Mhm.
think that's what a lot of businesses today, and learning to prioritize, multitask, manage people, build relationships with people. I think you learn every side of the business, don't you? So you kind of understand. Now when I'm working with founders and entrepreneurs, I know it's their baby, and they've built this from the ground up, and so I have, I think, an appreciation of building a business, but also the skills that it takes to be successful. All the things I said.
Yeah, yeah, I've always thought that that would be a key advantage to somebody who's actually run a business, to really get what it's like to be a founder,
Right,
right? And I'm quite sure that they often really don't get mirrored in terms of what it is. Like, a banker comes in and they just know the banking space,
right,
right? Rather
right.
than, no, this
Yeah,
again, this is their baby, and
yeah,
what it really takes,
right.
because those were harrowing days for you. I remember getting
Yeah.
calls from you, and again, it really is a stretch, isn't it? About, coming in and all of a sudden being responsible and finding yourself in kind of crazy or challenging situations. How did that change Michelle Doig?
Yeah, I mean, not to mention I'd never held a paintbrush.
Yes, exactly,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
you know, well, really, I think, again, back to problem solving, recruiting a team, setting a goal, and then motivating people to work towards that goal with
Mhm.
you. Um, and, I think you introduced us to the 7 habits of highly effective people, and those were really impactful. So certainly be proactive. First things first,
Mhm.
and just the skills that it really takes to be successful, not only in your career but in life. I think there's a lot coming at you at all stages of your life, so you really have to sit back and think about how you're going to prioritize and what matters, and how to motivate people to again get you to the goal that you're after.
Absolutely. And so, I know you've mentioned before that you felt like Student Works was helpful in getting your opportunity after Ivy into finance.
It really was. So my whole career is a series of forks in the road, and taking responsible risks as I coach my kids to do. And initially, out of Ivy, I thought I wanted to go into consulting.
Mhm.
And I went down the path. I was at a sell dinner for a very well known, prestigious firm, and thought I was doing well and chatting with everyone. And then I started chatting to someone who turns out was not a consultant, was the husband of one of the consultants who was hosting the sell dinner. And he sort of listened to my story, and then he said, I think you're gonna hate consulting. He said, "I don't think this is the path for you." And his wife's, glaring at him from, "What are you doing? This is a" But again, when I started speaking with him, I didn't realize he wasn't part of the selling.
Yes.
And he just said, "You're really achievement oriented. You go after results, and you need to see them. And I feel like you're more fitted to be in investment banking."
Mhm.
And I had not explored that, and I hadn't taken really any of the right courses. And so when I went to see him, he said, "Come see me, and I'll tell you all about it." And so again, thought I had a great conversation with him, and he's like, "Oh, but I can't hire you because I run a boutique, and what you really need is you need to go to one of the bigger
Big
banks
firms.
that has a training program." Preferably US based, because in the US they don't really have undergraduate business programs. And so you need to get into one of those. Great. Well, recruiting's over. I said no to this consulting
Yes.
job, and here I am. But I managed to get my resume in a few different places, and something came up at Morgan Stanley, and the VP who was running the recruiting. He said, "I have this stack, but I got to tell you, when I saw that you were a student works painting franchisee, like, that's no joke. I know what you would have had to, the work you would have had to put in, and really, entering an investment bank, especially in the analyst program, it's all about your work ethic
Yeah.
and your ability to, run the gamut, all-nighters, and problem solve."
Yeah.
And he said, "I know that that background is gonna give you'll succeed here."
Mhm.
So I got lucky, and ended up, working at Morgan Stanley, thinking I was going to do mining and metals and forestry products and all the Canadian things, but ended up working very closely with the managing director who ran biotechnology.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really, springboarded my career.
Yeah. No, and I remember, just connecting after a number of years after, um, you know, I remember you were in an airport sometime and you're going, why did I get so stressed in my first year compared to now I'm working 7 days a week and, just working all the time. And it's kind of like, to me, it's all about that comfort zone. I just get stretched and stretched and stretched and I can handle it. Right.
Right, right.
It's remarkable.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so so what was next? I know you jumped between firms a couple time, big firms. What was that about? What decisions were involved there?
I did. And so just like I, didn't know I wanted to be in investment banking, and certainly didn't think I should be in biotech because I have, grade 10 biology. It was a space that, so rewarding. We're developing, drugs for neurodegenerative diseases and cancer, and really making an impact. So I loved it. But one of the things that I realized was we were covering the U.S. biotechnology market out of Toronto. The market was really in the U.S., and I spent some time there, enough time to realize I wasn't getting the full picture in terms of the products that the bank offered in terms of M&A and credit facilities and convertible debt. So I wanted to go to New York, and my boss, and I don't blame her. She, trained me, and I learned the space. She preferred me to stay in Toronto, where
Right.
she was based.
Exactly. Make her life easier.
Yeah, yeah. So I made a tough decision, and joined a really wonderful firm called Hambrecht and Quist, which was since acquired by Chase and then J.P. Morgan. And it was a real entrepreneurial outfit. It was tech and biotech, really focused, and moved to New York. Never
Mhm.
thought I wanted to live in New York,
Yeah.
but knew that to really round out my career, if I wanted to go places, I needed to learn from and learn within that environment. So moved to New York, was there for 3 years. And then New York is, I mean, everybody should try to live in New York or spend time in New York. It is just the most incredible city. But it's, it's not for everyone. And I set my sights on Europe, and decided I wanted to spend some time over there. And I had the opportunity to move with, it was JP Morgan at the time,
Right.
through a series of mergers. But I also looked around and looked at some of the other shops and ended up, having four different options and negotiating a great deal and moving over to London, and covering biotech at one of the banks there. It was a few months before 9/11, and as we know, that changed everything.
Yes.
So that kind of forced the next pivot in my career, which ended up being an opportunity on what they call the buy side. So within a venture firm, helping the existing investments, the existing portfolio companies with their refinancing strategies and M&A. And that was a wonderful experience. Spent my first 5 years in London. And then after our first child was born, my husband and I actually met in London, in a pub in Notting Hill, as one
Right.
does. And then we wanted to move back to Toronto, and that's another point in my career, just being able to
Well,
justify
why
and
don't
yeah,
we
sure,
pause?
yeah,
Why don't we
that's a
pause?
lot.
So yeah, exactly. So you moved to London and you moved from the sell side to the buy
Mhm.
side. And so what sort of things did you learn in that space? What was important for later on in your career?
So really, and this goes back to one of the big things that I learned at Student Works Painting, it's building a relationship and building deep knowledge of, and an appreciation for one another within a professional relationship. So even the little things, like I remember from sales training, writing down the odd tidbit you could pick up from an initial conversation.
Yeah,
Oh, daughter plays soccer,
yeah,
likes the Montreal Canadiens,
yeah,
whatever it is, and
yeah.
using those little pieces to build on and build rapport.
Yes.
And that's something I've carried throughout my career, and really being able to develop relationships with all sorts of, quirky investors, I will say. Many of them are brilliant, but just very different personalities. I can
Yes.
always find something to sort of bond and work with them on. So I think, having the relationships and getting to know these investors, to know, oh, this is a company they're going to want to see, or I'm not going to waste my time because they don't like gene therapy,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. But really, carving out a niche in terms of being able to support companies and syndicate financings in a way that not only do they get the money they need to fund to the next value inflection point, but they're setting themselves up for the round after that and the round after that. Because biotech, it's $1 billion in 10 years to develop a drug.
Crazy.
It's
Yeah.
it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then why don't we also personalize this while we're talking through your business career? So you're in a serious relationship, you've got a child coming back. How do you manage, international moves with your partner? How does that work?
Yeah. So, well, my husband actually still was in investment banking,
Yeah.
and so we did manage to move back. I mean, there are all sorts of stories, and I joke that I moved in the middle of the night and just didn't tell, having worth the firm that I was with, and some of that's almost true, because not everybody knew what was happening, but they knew they wanted to keep me working with the companies. Another was, well, Toronto's really close to Boston, right? Can't you just, work out of the, sure. Mm-hmm.
Easy. Easy.
I mean, I will say, moving to Etobicoke was one of the best things we ever did, because I can, and last week I did it on both ends, door to door, 3 hours, because I'm
Wow.
that close to Pearson and Nexus and whatever. But
Yes.
but sorry, your question was about the move. Yeah, again, I think if you make yourself valuable and you've got a unique skill set, and we've talked about superpowers, right? And
Yeah.
and you have those qualities that firms will be flexible and try to work with you so that you can, stay together, if you
Right.
will. Yeah.
Right. Oh, so partly is when you're really good in your role, then they'll work with you and they'll work with your husband because they want to keep you, and well, we're moving, so
Yeah.
do you want the
Well,
opportunity to
and
stay with
and
me?
yeah, and my
Yeah.
husband had to do the same thing. He had to
Yes.
make the case
Yes.
to the investment bank that he was at
Yeah.
that, he'd been covering European industries that were very similar to the he was in Scandinavia, so very
Yeah.
similar to Canadian, and it's what we wanted, and if you want to make us happy, this is
What
where
we
we're
want.
headed,
Yeah.
and so we can stay together, or like I did before, if this isn't going to work for you, this isn't going to work for me, then I'll find someone else who, wants this.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So it's how do we have good conversations with
Yeah.
people, et cetera, and find that opportunity. So what was your focus? Now we're back in
Yeah.
Toronto. What was your focus with Abingworth?
Yeah. So it didn't really change because again, I was always working with, per fund, we had call it 15 portfolio companies. And they were based mostly in the hubs. Biotech tends to spawn out of bigger biotech and pharmaceutical companies. So that's Boston,
San
San
Francisco. Yeah.
Francisco, London, Munich.
Okay.
So there's centralized areas. So our portfolio was sort of spread amongst those areas. And so I was working a lot over the phone, and it was even before Skype or FaceTime
Yes.
or any of those things. And so I was doing a lot of emailing and phone working with these companies, traveling to go see them when I needed to. So it didn't change that much
Right.
because we started investing more in the US, and it was actually easier for me to be, on that side of the
Versus
pond.
London. Yeah.
And quite honestly, at that point in time, um, we were also focused on the big US investors who had the big pots of money to put into biotech.
Right.
So it actually, it actually helped actually being on this side of the pond. And I still go back. I'm on a board in London. I love London. But yeah, so it was pretty similar, but it did mean convincing at a time before it was normal that working from home was going to be great for them
Yeah. Exactly.
because we all know now how efficient and effective one can be,
Yeah.
uninterrupted, right? And so I just sort of proved out that case 18 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I know I did the strategic coach years ago, and they have what's called a no office solution for entrepreneurs. Should have a no office
Mhm.
solution. So
Mhm.
so decades I've been working from home, and
Right.
and again it's your comp plan. I'm sure, just like my comp plan, our profits are generated by us doing things. So we're not going to do things. So Michelle Doig is going to do things.
Yeah.
That's a guarantee. And you're going to be driven towards the goals that you're going after,
Right.
personal,
Right.
professional, etc. So,
Right.
so then your Abingworth has a bunch of clients, and then you're providing them, strategy, finance, like looking to go and get all the money they're going to need. So that's what you're doing, all the different critical decisions they need, and providing that expertise.
Right. And so, again, these are often scientists, academics, pharma execs coming into, oh my goodness, I have to go now, pound the pavement
Yeah,
and tell my story and get investors. And that's, there's a lot of learning involved
for sure.
because to some of these brilliant scientists it's completely obvious why you should throw money at me,
Yeah.
and selling that and sort of packaging it so that people a can understand what the heck they're talking about,
Yes.
but b see the market potential and see the return potential and see which pharmaceutical company was going to need to buy them 5 years down the road,
Right.
and really, fleshing out that story. And then, like I said, being able to put together a really defined target investor list so that they weren't wasting their time with, places where it just wasn't going to resonate, and
Right.
they wouldn't be successful. So, trimming down, and then the relationships that I had, being able to get these guys in the door. I mean, it's hard to get the attention of the portfolio manager
For
at
sure it is.
Fidelity or T Rowe, but
Yeah.
again, if you have a personal relationship, they know I'm not going to waste their time,
Yes.
and if I'm calling them, it's about something they should take a look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so again, just to go slower for our leaders. So these biotech companies, they're not really clear that what's most important to investors is how are they going to make a return.
Correct.
Who's going to potentially buy them
Right.
once they're successful,
Right.
and then when we can put that together and put them to the right people at the right time, that makes a
That's
difference.
right. And really, telling the story to what you're buying here is this value inflection point. So I'm going
Yes.
to deliver this clinical data that means compared to these other companies in the public markets, I'm worth, $800 million. And compared to the takeout, that Pfizer just bought this other company for $1.5 billion. So being able to draw the parallels exactly as you said, so that investors understand the return that's
And
possible.
going, okay, this is great. And again, it's one of those things for, maybe a young person listening going, well, no, shouldn't we just want these drugs?
Yeah.
Well, yes, we should. And that ultimately what drives the drugs is investors investing so they can make a return. And that's just true. And if you had hundreds of millions of dollars to invest or millions, you would want to invest in something that gave you and your family a return too. And
Absolutely.
that's how the world works.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I know. I mean, look, there are patient advocacy groups, and God bless them, that do wonderful work for a lot of smaller diseases,
Mhm.
because those are hard to get funding
Yes, for
for.
sure.
So that's another side of the business, and I try
Mm,
to help out there when I can.
yeah.
But yes, it all comes down to how am I going to make the best financial return.
Yeah. And I know as well, I know you've often talked to me about, hey, the world doesn't need another app. And
Yeah.
one of the things that you've put your life to, and that's what you've done here, you've put your life just like I put my life to student works, you put your life to these companies. And why don't you speak about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, so lucky. Again, chance favors the prepared mind. So
Mhm.
I think in life you have to be open and prepared for the opportunities that come along, and move on them. Because part of me wanted to say no when I was offered, the specialist analyst role in biotechnology, because I had grade 10 biology and I didn't think it
That's
was
great.
probably the right fit for me. No, it's just been the best thing ever to get into an industry so rewarding. So Omega, the firm that I'm a partner at now, we have 50 products approved through our investments, and that's a big number for a venture firm, and we're really proud of that.
Mhm.
And knowing that not all the products are curing cancer,
Right.
but some of them are really important drugs for breast cancer and melanoma and CNS diseases. So it doesn't get better than feeling like you've changed a patient's life
Exactly.
for the better.
Save their lives.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. And I think, we kind of proved during the pandemic. I mean, the world came together, governments came together, companies came together, and we came up with a vaccine in record time,
Yeah.
got it approved and into patients' arms, and saved countless lives. So, um, yeah.
Yeah. No, no, for sure, for sure. And so moving to Omega, what spawned that? How did that occur?
Yeah, so there was actually a step in between,
Okay.
and I was recruited over to Third Rock Ventures, which is right up your alley.
Yeah.
It is basically an incubator for
Right.
companies. They would just tackle white spaces and hire all the smartest people on their scientific advisory board to look at what the new hot areas would be. And so their model was, but we want to own all of them. So they would put sort of 50 million to 75 million into a company, get them started off the ground. They would use their existing partners to go in as the initial CEO and CSO and business development officer. And then what was sort of what they came to realize. If they got lucky, which they did for a while, when markets are hot, those things were going to get snapped up. But they really did need someone like me to help them get those companies. Again, these were a lot of the times first time CEOs, and didn't really know the game. So I could come in and get them what we call crossover financing. So more venture firms, but also some public investors crossing over into investing privately. And again, over 10, 15 years, I'd really developed a strong base of relationships. So I was there for 3 years, loved it, created some incredible companies that are doing wonderful things. Several of them acquired for, between $8 and $10 billion.
Wow.
So it was really great. But they wanted me to move to Boston to be a partner.
Right.
And that just wasn't something that the rest
You
of
want to do.
no. And it was around 2016. So I don't know if anyone remembers what happened in 2016, but that was the first election of,
Oh,
right? Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Yeah. So that didn't help my case to my family of, hey guys, we should move to Boston.
It's so friendly.
Yeah, exactly. And so in the meantime, I had been speaking with Otello Stampacchia, who is the founder of Omega Funds. And he and I had been on a board together in Europe when I was at Abingworth, and we stayed in touch. He is a great success story. Started Omega, from his living room couch in Geneva, and we have just raised, our eighth fund of it'll probably be around $600 million.
Wow.
So he has just built this incredible firm, and he was starting to transfer from European base to North American base, set up an office in Boston, and really wanted someone to help him, build out the business strategy wise, and be the, an ambassador on the ground to get the Omega Funds name out there and get us into good deals
Right.
through my syndicate and knowledge of other investors. So he offered me a partner role, and I took it and joined 8 years ago now. And since then, yeah, again, my role has evolved because I've wanted it to,
Right.
in lots of different fun ways.
Yeah. No, that's great, and I can see coming again and again and again is the impact of those relationships over time, and maybe you can speak to that because it's really hard for a 20-year-old to see, how what do you mean by that? How is that working?
Yeah. Well, again back to sort of this Stephen Covey principles. You know, first understand and then try to be understood.
Yeah.
And this sounds so silly, but people need to remember that we have two ears and one mouth,
Yeah.
and so really letting people talk and understand what their hot buttons are, what they don't like, and taking note before you even start talking. I mean,
Yeah.
often the smartest people in the room are the ones that say nothing.
Yes.
They take it all in, and then they nail it
Yeah.
in last 5 minutes of the meeting because they've absorbed it all, and I think that demands a lot of respect. So yeah, so listening and understanding what makes these people tick, and then being able to again bond with them, build rapport over whatever it is. I mean, I will say, especially for females. You gotta know who's in the Super Bowl and
Yeah.
what the odds are,
Yes.
and it's good if you like a hockey
Yeah.
team, and you kind of really have to put yourself in all those conversations. Learn how to golf, learn how to
Yeah.
ski,
Yeah.
all the places where again you have the opportunity to build not just professional relationships but personal relationships, because then people care about you
Yeah.
and they want to work with you,
Yeah.
together to get to a common goal. And I think that's made a huge difference. It also means that again you're not wasting people's time.
Mhm.
You're not calling them, for a favor to look at a company, or if you just know it's not something that is in their sweet spot of investment criteria.
Right. And again, you've developed that knowledge, but then also you just know it's just like I'm not gonna do that. And then you've developed that reputation. And
That's
so
right.
people pick your phone and pick oh, okay, Michelle, what do you have for me? This.
Yes.
I think this would be make sense for you.
Yes.
And they
Yeah.
go, oh, I see it.
Yeah.
And again, you just wouldn't waste their time. So
Right.
so
Right.
yeah, that's so awesome. And one of the things you talked about is, being a woman, and a woman
Hmm.
leader, so what would you speak to? Because, again, as I said before, we don't have as many women attracted to the home services as running a business as other careers, and we continue to do better. We want to do even better. And how do we direct them, for their careers?
Yeah, well, I actually think, you have a huge advantage going in and being different. I
Yeah.
mean, so you can use that however you want to use that. But I mean, I think, you know, women, as my daughter's school says, girls can do anything. I
Yeah.
mean, we do often have to work harder to prove ourselves. We do have to work harder to get into the conversation, which is why I say things like, you know, learn about sports,
Yeah.
read about, beyond just Taylor Swift and Kelsey.
Yeah.
Learn a few things so that you're never out of a conversation.
Yes.
And same with, like I said, golf and skiing. There's a lot of ski trips, and I can't tell you how many deals I've done on a chairlift
Yeah.
with people. So I think, again, as women, we have to do things differently, and we have to own that we are different. We're going to come at it from a different vantage, and yeah, I mean, I think just again making sure you're there in the
Yeah.
conversation and not cut out of anything.
Yeah. And again, I think anyone can cut themselves out of anything. Like I
Yeah,
remember earlier, I was not a golfer, and all of a sudden all my coaches and district managers were golfing. So I started to
yeah,
golf.
yeah,
And so that is a sport, and skiing is a sport
yeah,
that many business people do.
yeah.
And so not to be able to do that, not to exclude yourself
Right,
and then because it doesn't matter how good you are,
right,
everybody can play.
right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, you don't it's your attitude. So you
Yes.
don't have to be great at it. You
No.
just have to show up with a positive attitude.
Smile, enjoy
Exactly.
yourself. Yeah.
Exude positivity, and people want to be around you, and
Yeah.
they won't mind if they have to wait for you at the bottom of the hill,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
if you
Take
hit
a few
something
extra
they
strokes. Who
no,
cares? Yeah.
exactly. Just again, own it, and don't waste anyone's time,
Yeah.
but people are going to want to help you, and I think there's a lot of women out there that want to help each other, and I think there's a lot of men like you, Chris,
Yeah.
who really, you've got a very strong wife
Yeah.
with
You betcha.
her own mind and her own career, and what's more attractive than that, right?
No kidding, and she's the CEO of our business. We also have our daughter is rocking it at Qualtrics and just crushing it. So again, it's I again love strong women who are up to things,
Hmm.
I think I think in many ways you look at the world right now, and women are doing better than a lot of men.
Yeah.
Men are really, really still the top end of men are performing, but there's a bunch of men really falling off, and it's those are some of the things that women can step into. So I just love that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think we do often try harder, and we do often work harder, and I see time and again women sell themselves short, and
Yes.
sort of second guess themselves. And I think, a man would never in a million years say, well, I'm not qualified. I'm not sure. Never in a million years.
Yeah.
And especially not in our business.
Yeah.
And, we have a lot of different training programs for women to be on boards, because diversity on boards is a huge thing
Critical.
right now,
Yeah.
huge. And a couple of us kind of laughed. I mean, I'm on three boards right now, and a couple of us kind of laughed and went, "How many men do you think thought they needed to do, because they're women focused, do training before they got on a board?"
Yeah.
Like
None.
none. But every time, and this is through the Boston Biotech community, they offer a course. It's sold out. It's signed up 1,000%, because I think again women just want to try harder and want to feel super qualified for
Yes.
anything,
Yeah.
which is good, but also like we can't be too afraid to take risks.
Well, and that it's one of those things. And again, why is this? But overwhelming, if you look, men see a list of 10 things. Oh, well, I've got three of those things.
Yeah,
I can do that. Women see a list of 10 things. I've got seven of things. I don't know if I can do
yeah,
that. Right. So
yeah,
it's again, like you said, women stepping into
yeah,
that. We are faced with massive overconfidence on men, looking to join our program, and underconfidence for
yeah,
women. And we're trying to, again, have women step into that. And men, we're obviously looking to screen those people
yeah.
away from our program. That's,
Right.
that's, but yeah, no, these are things that show up. I know one of the things that really interested me was you're looking to highlight people's superpowers. So maybe you can share more about that.
Yeah, and I think within any team, you want to build a multidisciplinary skill set,
Right.
and so some people are, really, really good at execution. Other people are really, really good at the, analysis coming into a deal. Some people are good at, smoothing out the whole process through relationships. Other people really good at noticing the weak spot and coming in almost as the Debbie Downer or the negative. I hate that that's a woman thing too.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, Donald Downer is what I'm going to say
Donald
from
Downer.
now on. And you kind of have to recognize what you're good at and play to those strengths. And try to, understand how other people use their superpowers and learn from that. But there's no point trying to be something that you're not.
Yeah,
So when you recognize through your achievements what you're good at, you really just need to enhance that to use it every chance you get and lean into it. And I think again, you want to learn from what other people's superpowers are, but you are going to be the most successful when you embrace those, whether you like it or not. Some people don't actually want to, again, so I think some people on our team, they don't want to be that guy or that girl
hmm,
who comes in with, sort of the contrary view to pick apart all the maybe scientific, arguments why not to do something. But that's critical. You need that person on the team. Otherwise, I don't have a job because I'm led by people who are smarter than I am on the science
those
side and
things.
other things. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so what about you, Michelle? What are your superpowers?
Yeah, I think if I look back on where I've been successful, it's really been relationship driven and connecting people.
Hmm.
So one of the other things that I've done to really help our companies is recruit in chairs or independent board directors or CFOs, because I think again back to the relationships that I have, people trust me. They know that, I genuinely care about the people that I want to be working with and having relationships with. And so I think, yeah, connecting people into firms, but again, companies into investors. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can see that. It's one of those things about intentions. Intentions of people matter. Like over time, it's really hard, what somebody's intentions, I don't know. But over decades, you can really see what somebody's intentions are, how they show up day over day, year over year. And that's really impactful over time, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
And building yourself a strong network of people who support you and you're supporting.
Yeah.
It's the best thing to happen in my career was getting to a point where I don't have to work with assholes anymore.
Yes.
I mean, you do when
Yeah,
you're coming up in your
for sure.
career and you have to learn how to manage them,
Yeah.
and that's part of the game. But when you get to a certain point, you know enough people and there's enough opportunity out there
Yeah.
that you can go to stack the
Check,
deck
check that.
with people that again like-minded,
Yeah.
headed towards the same goal, not willing to do anything outside of our integrity
Yeah.
to get there.
Yeah. And again, like you said, outside of the integrity, and then also just are fun to deal with,
Yeah,
or good energy,
yeah,
right? So it's like,
yeah.
yeah, let's have good people.
The beer at the airport test, right?
Yeah.
Anybody,
Yeah.
and I think when you're thinking about taking a job too, make sure that is this someone, because it's going to happen. You're going to get stranded somewhere.
Mhm.
And if you don't, want to spend time with that person, it's going to affect your working relationship.
Yeah. I think one of the best ways somebody should look, especially at their early jobs, is who am I working with? If that's possible in the recruiting, wow, I like this
Yep.
person. I really could learn from this
Yep.
person. I'd take less money to be in that spot for sure. Because a key mentor early on is massive.
That is so true. I mean, that's another thing that I think about in my career, and I get offered opportunities to do other things and join companies in operating roles, but you really can't be motivated by money.
Yeah.
It's actually going to backfire in the end.
Hmm.
You have to be motivated for the right reasons, and then the money follows.
Yeah.
But
Because you create
yeah,
value.
yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But don't. Yeah, that's the wrong reason to do something. You'll end up miserable, and often you don't succeed either.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So the pandemic changed how businesses are operated substantially. What are some of the positive and or negative impacts that have changed for you?
Yeah, so again, I started working from home before it was a thing. So for me, everybody realized, oh wow, you can be so efficient and so effective.
Yeah.
This is great. I think the flip side of that is we did try to do too many things. I know in our industry in biotech, we created a very unhealthy environment because we had nothing to do but create new companies and get them financed. And we ended up with all these little small projects that weren't really companies yet, because we were bored and we were just, doing things too quickly. And then I also think not meeting in person is detrimental.
Yeah.
And I think there's, the generation coming up, I worry. So many of them are focused on being able to have a flexible, which is great, but again, until you've spent time in an office environment, or not necessarily in an office, but you know what I mean, like out
Together with
together
people.
with
Yes.
people, learning from, and understanding that common goal and working, creatively together to get there, you're not there yet.
Yeah.
And you're going to get lost if you're just, sort of, it's great because I can walk my dog and I can do Pilates at, but that's not actually giving you what you need to build a successful career. So I do worry a little bit that we've gotten too much into the Zoom, and Microsoft Teams era.
Yeah.
And so we've started bringing board meetings back to in person. We'll maybe do one a year, but you need to be in the room. You need to see people's body language,
Yeah.
and also, you're just not getting the attention. For sure, people are multitasking when they're
Yes.
on these Zooms, and so I do, really want to encourage that next generation coming up to be with people and don't, try to work from home, because I think, in the end that's going to backfire.
You're gonna short yourself.
Yeah.
And also as well, if we really think about, it's not just the, "Oh, I was in a meeting today."
Yeah.
No, I got to speak with Michelle and we had a coffee or a drink after work,
Yep.
and all that other stuff that just so matters. And again, in terms of getting promoted, and why would someone wanna promote you if you're just on a Zoom call, you know?
Yeah.
And I know for us, we did 2 entire years over Zoom
You would have had to.
trainings,
Yeah.
2 entire
Yeah.
years. And one of the things we gained from it actually works. Like, so now we do all of our orientations over Zoom, our 2 February, trainings over Zoom. Weather's really awful. We can
Mhm.
jump everyone
Mhm.
on for 6,
Mhm.
7 hours.
Mhm.
But then we do our January trainings, of course, our April training, and then a June training, and then we have a couple Zoom trainings later. So again, it's just a little bit, let's take the efficiency gains,
Yep.
but don't lose all the relationship gains.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I mean, you can still do the building rapport
Yeah. Yeah.
and really kind of get to know and like someone across screens, but it's not the same,
No.
and you do miss out on all the sort of innuendos and all the little things that are going to
Yeah.
benefit you in the
And
long
something
run.
about breaking bread together,
Yeah.
right? It's different. And again, and not that it always has to be. And again, I think, like you said, I think the world, I think more and more companies like yourself and ours is we do some, and when we do not as many, it's
Yeah.
like kind of just
Yeah.
dancing
Yeah.
between them, the right
Yeah.
amount,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, threading that needle of let's be as efficient as we can, but let's not lose out on the opportunity, to bond as a team
Yeah.
and get to the right answer and outcome.
Yeah. So what about, biggest mistakes or failures or setbacks, and what have you learned from those, Michelle?
Yeah, I think one of them was at one point, doing something for the money.
Okay.
And I think I almost negotiated. It was moving over to London and having these opportunities, and you end up almost negotiating yourself out of a long-term position if you get if the deal is too good,
Right.
especially if a 9/11 happens or something happens, and people need to change their strategies. So I think, yeah, it's taking a step back and making sure that you're taking the opportunity that's going to make you the happiest, because you're going to learn the most and be with the people that you respect, and you want to emulate, versus the ones that will pay you the most money.
Awesome, awesome. We're coming close to wrapping up. Anything that we haven't covered? I got a couple more things for you. Anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with our team?
I mean, I guess I would just encourage everyone, as I said, to, I mean, the book, The Serendipity Mindset, is a really good one.
Okay.
Not that I'm peddling anyone's book, but again, if I look back over my career, so much of it had to do with, serendipity, banking over consulting, and then biotech as an industry, moving to New York, then moving to London, and then flipping over to the buy side. And I think, the Louis Pasteur quote, "Chance favors the prepared mind," means you have to be open to, you have to develop the skills, to be able to act on these opportunities and to be able to have them present themselves in the first place. But then you really need to be open to, like student works painting, because, it wasn't on my radar.
Yeah.
It came across through, a soft in my residence
Yeah.
in a passing conversation. And, I got excited about it. I was late. Remember, I was like, I think I was your last manager in that
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
But look, it opened so many doors for me, and it wasn't easy. I'm not going to lie. And
No.
there were a lot of stress. But I can say, I had my own business, and I was responsible for everything: the people, the, production of, painting, which again, I never held a paintbrush, but that means you got to hire the right people and pay them well,
Yeah.
and treat them well so that they are motivated, to make sure the jobs get done. Marketing, yeah, I mean, I think it's just a great opportunity, and one that, again, I'll encourage my children to look into, because um, again, there's nothing like it, being able to, say you started a company, really, is
Yeah.
what you did. I mean, and obviously so much help from,
No, for sure. But no.
from
Yeah.
you guys, in terms of the training and the marketing materials and the name and the
Yeah.
reputation, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But no, just a huge accomplishment.
Yeah. Well, no, thank you. And one thing I just wanted to acknowledge you for, I've been sitting back and I was thinking, just, and maybe you don't recall, but you were part of creating our mission statement. I remember there were about five other amazing leaders at the time: Jody and Jason and Chad
Yeah,
and Paul, and I want to acknowledge you for that. And I also want to acknowledge, like, Student Works is at a different level now. We've just really done amazingly well. Michelle was somebody who lent me money to get our business through a whole number of years. So thank you so much, Michelle. You believed in us, believed in me,
yeah,
and we proved you right.
you did, you did, yeah,
And again, it's one of those things where, as an entrepreneur, sometimes we do need to go
yeah,
to people and go ask for money, and obviously you got to return, but it's about trust, it's about relationship, it's about putting yourself out there as an entrepreneur to go and need, get what you need,
hmm,
because a business needs money to survive.
right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, that was good. Anytime. But you're exactly right. I mean, getting to know you over those 3 years, so
yeah.
two as an operator and one as a DM, I trusted you
Mhm.
implicitly. And also, I want this. This is an important program. This, changed my life, and it'll change, tons of great students' lives. And look, you can also make really great money. And for
Mhm.
those of us that, pay their tuition, that was meaningful also. So yeah, no, it's a great program, and I'm thrilled to support it.
Well, awesome. Well, Michelle, thank you so much, and let's go have dinner.
Okay.